So, as many people have already heard, there was a guy on Reddit recently who
He had
posted.
a moment.
He had a bit of a moment. He posted his 44 rules of D&D, shared it with his players, and one of his players shared it on D&D Horror Stories. This has made the rounds everywhere. So I decided to bring my good buddy, William SRD, friend of the show.
Hello, it's me. You know, I'm William SRD from hit show William SRD.
From the William SRD channel on WilliamSRD.com, who is going to be doing, probably going to be out by the time this comes out, a video on Wraith, the Oblivion, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a stream tonight on Wraith the Orpheus device, which is just this mini Wraith the Oblivion game where, like, you turn your cell phone into a Ouija board, basically. I expect a lot of tech issues, but it should be a good time.
So, without further ado, let's gather up the murder and jump into this.
So rule number 1, I'm timing turns. I don't give a if it's unfair in your opinion because your spells are hard or you don't know what square to move to. You get 1 minute to know all the actions you want to take, or I skip your turn.
Have you ever had anyone in a game you played ever have time turns before?
I have, and it was with me as the DM. But
really,
I set that rule because I was DMing for 11 people.
Completely fair. For that many people? Yeah.
If you have 11 people at your table, 1 minute turns. Any other circumstance other than that, I just don't think it's warranted.
I did do time turns at one point, but I will say this. I'd tell them I was doing this. I'm going to be real. I wasn't really keeping track.
It's like when you say, "Hey, we're going to start tracking inventory weight." You're not going to start tracking inventory weight. You're just telling them to not pick up all the iron daggers. You don't understand. We have to rip up the floorboards. This wood could be worth something. It's been over a minute. We have to move on to the next rule.
Oh, shit. You're right. Okay. If you want harder fights, bring a second character sheet and expect to twiddle your thumbs when you die. I'm not going to baby anyone. So, this one. When it comes to tone, it comes off like anime villain adjusts his glasses. You better bring another character sheet, buddy, because it's going to be a tough one.
To me, this rule doesn't read like a rule. This reads like the remnants of an argument that happened 3 weeks ago. This isn't a rule. This is nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. If you call me or my roles unfair, I'll get up and go home. And if you gotta ride with me, you can find your own way back and suck it up. This is targeted at someone.
This is very targeted at someone.
These aren't rules. This is the aftermath of an RPG horror story. Probably many aftermaths of many D&D horror stories. If I was in a group where this regularly was something we need to enforce with a rule, I think I'd rather just leave the group.
Right?
It'd be like, yeah, Crowe, we're going to go for our weekly dinner again, okay? But rule number 1, you have to use a fork, you fucking slob. You've got to wipe up after yourself. I'm not paying for your bill. Like, at that point, we just hate each other.
If I see you with another fucking spoon, you're paying the bill.
At this point, like, this just reads like, why are you still playing with these people?
I'm going to take your character's loot away as regularly as you want it given out. Rule 3 will apply here.
First, my lasagna timer went, so I will go and pull that out of the oven real quick first. On paper, rule 4 could be kind of cool because you're like, okay, I'm going to be really generous with loot, but I'm also going to make it so that loot doesn't last forever. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, you've got this rotating number of magic items. You get a lot more variety. You're always getting new toys. That's kind of cool. But it's kind of undone by just the hostility of it, of just going like, rule 3 will apply here. You know, the rule where he was like, if you don't like my decisions, f*** you, I'm not driving you home.
Like, on paper, before he says that, it sounds like, okay, maybe it's going to be like Numenera. You get a bunch of ciphers, but then, yeah, they're all consumable. They all burn out, basically, but they're all really powerful. But when he says that part, right, it's like, something tells me he's not handing them out like candy, but he is taking them away.
Yeah. Like, oh, what's that? We're fighting the 7th rust monster in a row? If you don't act out any of your persuasion or intimidation or any other social checks, you fail before you even roll. You fail immediately because you aren't even trying and you're making the game lame for everyone else. What do you think?
I despise this. I'm an actor. Yeah. I will do it because I'm in it for the love of the game, baby. But I do not expect that out of anybody else, and nor should any other table.
Some groups are just not super roleplay heavy, and that's fine. You can still get the job done. You can still tell good stories.
Number 6. If you don't pick up cues for side quests, that's not my problem. Get over yourself. He's one to talk. Jesus. Get over yourself. It's not a video game. It's a role-playing pen and paper-based game with miniatures. I'm not holding your hand if you choose not to pursue shit. Wow. So when it comes to side quests, something I do personally, I have done a lot of open worlds, sandboxes, that kind of thing, right? Big like hex crawl kind of things.
Yeah.
I will cram it with side quests, and you just tell me whatever the fuck you want to do, and that's the thing we're going to do.
Yeah.
And I'll cannibalize older content if it seems like you're not interested in it, and then throw it into the new thing.
I also think that this rule is a lot of projection. Because I guarantee the players weren't complaining about these quests they didn't find, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even know
they
about
existed.
These quests. If you move to a square in combat, there's no takebacks. Again, that's a good rule for big tables worth of players.
Yeah.
Other times, flexibility's better.
I think most times, like, unless your player is like some min-maxy, like super optimization type, this won't really come up too often. Most players, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty generous with people taking back because it's just like, oh shit, I meant to be like 5 feet away so I could stab him with my like glaive or something and not get hit.
And it's important in a medium where there tends to be so many misunderstandings.
You tell every single person what you're doing before you do it. You don't fucking roll dice and then say you're casting Fireball. You tell us all. This is probably the first rule I kind of 100% agree with. I've seen people do the whole thing where they're rolling before anything's going on. Like, please let me finish describing something. Please let me give you all of the context you need. And also, I'll tell you if you need to make a check because you might be just rolling for no fucking reason. If you tell me you're trying to move silently, you have the means to do so, and the terrain that you're walking in can allow you to do that, then you're moving silently, and I'm only going to make you have to make a stealth check if somebody's trying to actively look for you.
Yeah. I will give out exhaustion more frequently. If you argue, go home, or you can actually fight me over it, or you can DM yourself.
Bro, what the fuck is that rule?
Playing more status effects, I think this is fine. I think this is good. Challenging people to a fight over it. You know what? I'm gonna go with yes. Yeah, challenge people to fights over random D&D rulings.
Yes.
But again, this isn't a rule. This isn't a rule. This is an argument he had in the past.
Yeah. I will say this. If we're to call this a rule, I think it's a bad rule, quote unquote, to give it exhaustion more frequently, because I think exhaustion's a dog shit mechanic.
I like playing more with status effects, but
they're fun.
You are right, exhaustion, probably a bit much.
Every snide comment you make to an NPC will be remembered and paid back in triplicate. Ooh. You all seem to believe there is little consequence.
This is definitely another one that's got a lot of stuff behind it. That said, a better faith interpretation of this rule is not bad. I've definitely played at tables where they say, like, all discussion you have, whether you're talking about, like, numbers or whatever, or dice, is assumed to be in some form done in character. While you may be saying, like, yes, I'm pretty sure I could scare this guy if I roll my D20 here and do an intimidate check. What your character actually says is like glaring at him and just like, I bet I could make you back down. I find that fun.
What he's saying is he doesn't like people talking shit about the NPCs he made.
Yeah. Rule 10, do not quip.
Yeah,
do not quip.
If you make fun of my OCs, I will actually fight you.
Rule number 11, you will not be given a mega dungeon every session. A temple is not the size of a small city, neither is a cave. This shit will happen when it's natural and organic. Go play some roguelike if you want that. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like as a Rule 0 conversation, this is fine. Way too hostile, but fine. But you're right. Like, what had to happen at this table to make this be required?
Next one, number 12.
Yeah.
The travel portion is done. Okay. You want to travel continents doing literally whatever you want, whenever you want? Go play World of Warcraft or play D&D with ChatGPT. First off, D&D with ChatGPT is only fun as a meme.
Fun YouTube video, not fun for any other circumstance. Yeah. It's just like, I don't think 5e has good travel mechanics, so we're just going to skip over travel sections and montage it. Plan your expectations accordingly. Fine as a session 0 comment. Bad as a table rule.
Number 13.
If you're late with no good reason, I'm going to have your characters hit points for the entire session. I could see if this guy's got a problem with, like, the sessions are always short because everyone's late all the time. Maybe you want to implement some rules. I don't think this is a good rule to do it, though. I'm not 100% sure you can mitigate that through in-game rulings whatsoever.
The thing that gets me is he says no good reason.
Yeah.
Right? What does that mean? What is no good reason? If you don't show up for no good reason, and that will be determined by me alone if no one else has the guts to say, for fear of upsetting one another, the first time you'll find yourself losing either a whole level or up to 3 major items of your own. And he already said he's stealing your loot. The second time you do it in a row, you'll be removed from the chat and the group full stop. I have no fucking time for people to not show up. Say you actually went through with that. William SRD, you showed up late to my game because your parents were dying of like giga cancer. However, I don't think that's a good enough reason.
They would need to die of ultra cancer in order for that to be a good reason.
Exactly.
If you get too stoned or drunk to play, I will go home without a warning. Your warning is here. 16. If you get up for bong or smoke or whatever breaks every 10 minutes, I will simply pack up and go home. I'm sick of waiting for everyone to be at the table.
Every bloke
to be at the table. Well, that's the problem right here.
Yeah, guys, we solved it. This DM is British.
We've actually hit a section where I don't think I disagree very much.
Mm-hmm.
I think if your players are regular getting like smashed or just like too stoned and greening out and they can't play and like they're just like sitting there like fucking comatose at your table, they're not actually playing the game. And I think there needs to be consequence. Going home without a warning may be a bit much, but like
what I did in this particular situation is like everyone's showing up like drunk or like they basically are too inebriated to play.
Or they get
Let's just play board games. Number 17. Guidance. Divination spells, owls, and whatever spells I decide are too fucking stupid are banned outright. No more fucking guidance. Okay. Guidance? I'm sorry. Is not that strong.
Yeah.
Divination spells, 5e. Comprehend languages, detect evil, and would you consider these to be any
I'm sorry, they gotta go. I'm sorry, Crowe, they gotta go.
Yeah, my players keep using identify, and I'm real fucking sick of it personally.
Ruining my game. You get one chance at a skill check. This is rule 18. If you f up, your party doesn't get their chance to do the same check. Think careful who's good at what.
I think people just want to make everything a dice check for some reason.
Yeah, they do it too often.
Yeah. Like, not everything needs to. If you're a rogue, we can assume you can competently pick a lock, right?
It's the difference between, like, someone needs to pick the lock on the door before the guards come around the corner. The rogue fails the check, and you're like, okay, well, the rogue failed to do it in time. Maybe the fighter barges in and takes a go at it. That would be a context where it would be like only one person gets the check. But if it's an awareness check to spot an ambush, it's not like everyone close your eyes, the ranger has to look around.
Yeah. So rule number 19. Discussion of metagame details in-game will result in instant damage to your character. This is funny as shit.
This is very funny. This is, again, every month or two, it'll come up in discussions of, like, what things count as metagaming. We've all fought so many fucking wars on this. No one can decide what metagaming is. Let's just let it go, guys. Rules lawyering fellow players is encouraged, but actuallying me will result in me telling you to f*** off. Rules for thee, but not for me. This is dumb.
That is unhinged. See, this is fascinating to me. It's like if I'm actually rules lawyering my fellow players, I'm gonna use some metagame terms, right?
Yeah.
And then I take damage.
Yeah. Good job for saying that. Take 5 damage.
You roll your dice within view of 2 players who aren't you standard. Grammar. Oh, wait, he's going to boot me for that. I'm going to take damage for that, right? You roll them neatly, and you roll them on the table. Failing to do these 3 things will auto-fail whatever roll you did. Arguing that you actually rolled validly when you clearly didn't is also an automatic critical failure. What is going on? Like, how much does he distrust his players to where he needs something like this?
Rule number 22. Instant death traps and mechanics are coming into place. If you call these things unfair moving forwards, I will laugh at you and tell you to fuck off and cry some more. They just called something unfair. I thought he was supposed to leave, no questions asked.
That's true. Does he laugh?
His rule. Yeah, what,
he breaks his own rules.
Does he laugh while he's on his way to the car?
Laughing all the way to the bank.
They can't even hear him. Yeah, instant death traps and mechanics, just not good. They're never fun. I mean, okay, they could be fun if it's like a very high lethality, this is what everybody wants. This is the kind of game where that's supposed to happen. But in most campaigns, it's just not going to be good.
There have been some that I found to be really interesting, and there's some like the ones that are in Tomb of Horrors. They're dog shit.
Yeah.
I like to put an instant kill trap in an area to where you could use it to interact with enemies as well. Like, say there's the spinning blade trap. There was a trap in particular my brother had used, to where when you got close to it, it'd cut you, but if you got thrown into it, it would kill you.
Yeah.
But we ended up pushing one of his enemies into it, and then it just straight up blended him. And it's like, okay, that's great. Like, yeah, give us an instant death trap, but then also allow the enemies to be able to be a victim to that same trap.
So being that we are now at that halfway point, allow me to cut myself a slice of lasagna. I am starving.
So 23, I will not give you random magical items and vendors will not stock them. Okay, I want to mention something that he had brought up previously in one of his other rules. He basically said that he would be handing out his magic items as often as he's going to take them away. But if he's now implying that there's not going to be a lot of magic items, I think I was right in my previous assumption.
Yeah, again, not a rule, just wants to take them away. Random encounters in the form of random dragons or strange, mysterious road trader or a band of goblin prostitutes isn't going to happen. Go play Baldur's Gate 3. Well, how would there be random encounters? Travel isn't done. And honestly, random encounters, I think, have a terrible reputation in the D&D community. And it's completely unwarranted because everyone just thinks random encounters are combat.
I like to think of random encounters as exactly that, an encounter. Do you remember the strangers in like Red Dead and things like that? How you just run into a random person? Yeah. I do that a lot with random encounters too.
You roll a 100 and you stumble across Strahd getting his groceries.
Yeah. I don't give 2 fucks what Reddit said about X and Y ruling. This would be the 3rd rule I'd say that I kind of agree with.
He speaks the truth.
Yeah. That's fine. It's okay if you don't want to listen to what Reddit says is right about D&D.
And this is why, like, every time I see, like, advice about, like, technically this rule might say this, and thus you can convince your DM that you can do 10,000 damage in 1 turn. Yeah, that doesn't survive the DM being like, I don't care, that's stupid. The DM says no, and everyone fucking Kaiba screams and disintegrates. Rule 26, I actually give less of a fuck about what your mate's D&D group did. Same thing, I guess, you know, someone else's DM ruled it a different way. I don't care how they ruled it, I rule it this way. Reasonable rule. 25, 26, they're okay.
27. Saying anything to me about other players not liking me doing X or Y without them saying it to me directly will result in me kicking you out of the group. Don't use someone else to push your own agenda. Bro, okay, I think I pieced this together. These 3 are connected. One of these players got mad at how he ruled something, talked with a friend, and then posted it on Reddit.
You're not to sit down and have a 2-hour discussion about what Samson from Bundora Secondary did 3 weeks ago when you come to play. Take the 15 to 20 minutes that I used to set up and review my notes to talk to each other, then sit down to play. This is actually something I usually do when I'm running games where I mandate that first 30 minutes is for chatting, get it out of your system, and then we hit the game hard. Doesn't need to be enforced as a strict rule. The DM should just structure the game that way if they want to do it. Saying like, guys, come on, we're not here to have fun. We're here to play D&D. This is serious business. It's rude and it's dismissive of how much work I put into this. I will simply go home if I hear this.
This
They're
is
so
wild. So I'm confused about this now. He says, please don't have this kind of discussion. Let's take the game seriously. Next rule, guys, we need to lighten up, you know? All right, 30. Yep. This is interesting. Don't f***ing order food randomly. We will eat together at a specific time or not at all. I don't want food all over my things. How are his players eating? No food or drinks near any of my D&D gear. If you wreck something, you can pay for it. I let one person trash my DM screen. How? Once, and I never had it replaced, but can I stop this for a second? How do you ruin a DM screen?
They're pretty much the most durable thing in the whole
right?
kit.
In fact, I had that person attempt to gaslight me into believing they didn't wreck my shit at all. Okay, I don't want to call the DM a liar. They're this upset about a DM screen, of all things. I don't necessarily believe them. I'm not stupid. You're an adult. Accept responsibility.
Irony. Projection. Arguments between party members outside of roleplay will be resolved by me giving the definite ruling. If you don't like it, f*** off back home. That could be two things. One could be reasonable. Like if two players are arguing about a rule, DM arbitrates it, fair game.
Oh yeah.
This is very vague though. If one person's like, hey, you slept with my girlfriend, and the DM's like, well, we're here at the DMD table, so I get to arbitrate today.
I don't give a fuck what they did in Critical Role or what that one guy on Reddit said. If you think that it's all make-believe so you can do what you want, the world I want run works on internal rulings and lore I created specifically for it.
I'm just going to console this guy real quick. Hey, if you're watching and you're the guy who wrote these rules, no one's comparing you to Matt Mercer. It's okay. I promise. No one's comparing you to Matt Mercer. You're okay. I promise that is the last thing that you should be worried about.
34. Every single person in this chat is having debuffs applied to their characters that should have occurred a long time ago. That's insane. How far back are we going here? Like, is bro saying, oh, there was a ruling where I said your hand got chopped off, you argued with me, and then I decided not to go through with it, right? And then he's like, actually, give me your hand.
35 and 36. If you don't bring your sheet, you don't play. If you don't bring your dice, borrow some.
When it comes to don't bring your sheet, I typically run with the idea of the DM kind of holds the sheets.
Yeah.
If you don't want to bring it back home, like I kind of leave it up in the air. Like, do you want to hold on to it? If you don't have a place to put it, I can hold on to it.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a solved problem. And again, if people don't bring dice, I mean, most DMs I've ever played with have all kind of had it as the etiquette that, like, if you're DMing, you should bring extra dice in case people forget.
Because also, if you're a DM, you're probably a dice goblin. When we play D&D, I'm not your friend. That's so edgy. When we play D&D, I'm not your friend. That doesn't mean you treat me like an enemy during the game. It means I'm no longer being nice.
Hey, look, guys. When I'm DMing, I'm supposed to be pretending to be your enemies. You're not supposed to pretend to be my enemies. I have feelings. Related, more molding here. If you treat me poorly in any way, shape, or form after or during or before the game, due to something that happened in the game, you're out. If you cannot separate a game from reality, I think you're a f***ing moron, and I have little time to deal with that energy. Now, I will say that at a good table, a healthier table than whatever the f***'s going on at this guy's game, having the rule that, like, hey guys, if we had any in-game disagreements, we have a set rule. We don't talk about those disagreements after the game is done. That's a fair enough rule. I don't think that's what's going on at his table.
39. You will submit your spell list daily in-game. If you do not give me a spell list each in-game day, you will not be allowed to cast a single spell or cantrip in combat. I do not trust you guys to not use this against me.
Yeah, honestly, this one just continues this complete breakdown of trust in this group. Let's be real. What DM wants to know your spell list? I don't want to know your spells.
Yeah.
Shut up. If you try and tell me your spells, I'm going to tell you to leave. I'm going to fist fight you. I'm going to turn into this guy if you try and tell
Start
me your
beating him up.
Rule 40. If you do not mark off spells or say something like, I remember what I'm at as a way to justify it, I will simply fail your spell, deal half your health and damage to you, and say you have no spells to cast for the rest of the day. Again, this is related to the last one. Complete breakdown of trust within this group. Also, incredibly disproportionate response. This is crazy. Don't fucking do this. Why are you going to war with your players? If you break literally anything, you can buy the replacement that day or not attend till you do. I think it's reasonable to ask players to replace anything if they break your shit. Asking for it that day? You're probably playing at night, presumably. Where are they going to
Hero
replace...
Forge mini, right? It ships out in like 7 days. Like, you're not getting that mini back for a while.
I would be inclined to give this good faith if it wasn't for the fact that, everything else in this post exists. Rule 42. If you complain about the choice of music, I fully expect you to bring the whole playlist the next session or to shut the flock up.
I think he's a DJ.
I think he probably is too.
43. Cannot stress enough how little I care about how you feel about my rulings from now on. Oh, he's angry now.
He cares.
In society, man. Bottom text. I'm never just threatening you. Adjust glasses. You can't see it. His eyes, I'm promising you.
I enforce all my rules like that. I'm like, yeah, your health pool, it's determined by making this roll and adding this attribute. And if you don't like that, then we're going to have words, and that's not a threat. That's a promise. I want to have that on my wall, and I'll just be like, don't make me tap the sign. Yeah, and my ultimate advice to this group to help is rule 45, don't play with people you don't like. All of these rules just come down to I hate you and I don't want to play with you, but for some reason we're doing it anyway.
I assume this was weeks after a game, or maybe even a couple months, right? This just says to me he needs to take a longer hiatus. Clearly, he has a group that's inconsiderate of how he feels. But instead of processing that, recognizing what are issues he's even had and how they could rectify these two things, and coming up with a solution, one of which could even potentially be no longer playing with them anymore, he instead goes, okay, I have to dig now. I have to double down. They're all dumb and bad, and I'm great. And if they ever question me, I will bash them with a bag of hammers, I'll tell you that much.
In the end, I guess the only way to win in a group like this is not to play.
Or we use all 44 of these rules for our next campaigns. We got to put it into action, So that was the 44 rules for D&D. Do you feel like you guys learned anything? Drop a comment in the comment section down below. And if you can't think of a comment, then leave the comment 44 rules for life.
And if you disagree with anything we've said in this video, we're not giving you a ride home today. By the way, rule 46. Like the video. Subscribe to Crowe's Perch on YouTube. It's
and
not
you
really a
should
call
too.
to action if you have your guest do it, huh?
Oh, tricky.
Not self-advocacy.
I'll just have all of my guests just say it all for me. So I never have to say it myself. Then it's not cringe.
Exactly.
There you go. 47th rule right there. If you don't say it, it's not cringe. Thank you, William SRD, for coming on by. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time as the crow flies.